Good morning, everyone. Today is the second day of our inset, and the topic which I'm going to discuss to you this morning is entitled Assessments, Evaluation, and Adjustment of Learning Continuity Plan, which is a DepEd Order number 31, Series of 2020. What is the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan? The Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan is a package of education interventions that will respond to the basic education challenges brought about by COVID-19. In developing the BELCP, DepEd engaged internal and external stakeholders for inputs in the design of a learning delivery strategy and operational direction that ensures the health, safety, and well-being of all learners, teachers, and personnel of the department. What are the 5 basic principles of BELCP? 1. To protect the health, safety, and well-being of learners, teachers, and personnel and prevent the further transmission of COVID-19. 2. Ensure learning continuity through K-12 curriculum adjustments, alignment of learning materials, deployment of multiple learning delivery modalities, provision of corresponding training for teachers and school leaders, and proper orientation of parents or guardians of learners. 3. What are the facilitate the safe return of teaching and non-teaching personnel and learners to workplaces and schools, or CLCs, taking into consideration the scenarios projected by the Department of Health, or DOH, and the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases in the Philippines, or IATF, complemented by other credible sources and balanced with DepEd's own risk assessments. 4. The sensitive to equity consideration and concerns and endeavor to address them the best we can. And 5. Link and bridge the BELCP to DepEd's pivot to qualify and into the future of education under the framework of Sulong Educalidad and Futures Thinking in Education. Let us discuss why we need to assess and evaluate the learning continuity plan. So we have the rationale. The continuing threat of COVID-19 in the country and the world bring about unprecedented challenges to basic education. As schools prepare for school year 2020-2021, teachers and parents must adapt to alternative learning modalities to ensure that the learners achieve essential curricular goals. This will require creative and innovative ways of designing optional learning experiences and assessing learning progress effectively under adverse circumstances. As stated in DepEd Order number 8, Series 2015, the policy guidelines in classroom assessment for the K-12 basic education program, assessment should be used to inform and improve classroom practices and promote learning outcomes. However, in distance or blended learning environments, it is necessary to utilize alternative tools and strategies for assessing and supporting learning while avoiding creating undue pressure on the teachers, learners, and their families. Scope. The DepEd order provides for the interim policy guidelines for assessment and grading in light of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan, or BELCP, that will be implemented by public elementary and secondary schools nationwide this school year 2020-2021. Private schools, technical and vocational institutions, and higher education institutions, including state and local universities and colleges offering the K-12 basic education program, are encouraged to implement these interim policy guidelines as well. Private schools and institutions are permitted to modify these policy guidelines according to the philosophy, vision, and mission with the approval of their respective DepEd regional office. Policy statement. The DepEd is committed to ensure educational continuity in this time of crisis while looking after the health, safety, and well-being of all its learners, teachers, and personnel. Schools must adopt assessment and grading practices that can most meaningfully support student development and respond to varied contexts or at this time. Principles underlying assessment. A. Assessments should be holistic and authentic in capturing the attainment of most essential learning competencies. B. Assessment is integral for understanding student and learning development. C. A variety of assessment strategies is necessary with formative assessment taking priority to inform teaching and promote growth and mastery. D. Assessment and feedback should be a shared responsibility among teachers, learners, and their families. And last, assessment and grading should have a positive impact on learners. Principle underlying assessment. Teachers, school leaders, learners, and parents must commit to uphold the integrity of learning and instruction in the context of distance education. The main desired outcomes of this policy are: A. To ensure that all learners are fairly assessed and graded in the continuation of education during the health crisis, and B. To emphasize that learning standards shall be attained with the provision of reasonable leniency and consideration for possible difficulties met by the learner. School leaders, learners, and parents must commit to uphold the integrity of learning and instruction in the context of distance education. The main desired outcomes of this policy are: A. To ensure that all learners are fairly assessed and graded in the continuation of education during this health crisis, and to emphasize that learning standards shall be attained with the provision of reasonable leniency and considerations for possible difficulties met by the learner. Strategies, responsibilities, and assessment during this pandemic. Distance learning poses challenges for teachers and learners in this conduct of assessment, including limitations on giving immediate feedback and the need to account the different contents in designing, implementing, and grading assessment tasks. What will teachers do? For this school year, particular focus of teachers are on the following. 1. Designing the assessment to allow the flexibility in multiple modalities. 2. Communicating to learners and parents or guardians the design and standard for grading the assessment. 3. Setting up mechanisms to monitor and record progress remotely. 4. Giving timely, constructive, and relevant feedback. And last, facilitating remediation for learners who need further guidance. What will learners do? Learners are expected to be proactive in updating their teacher of their situation, progress, and challenges encountered. Like my pupils, they send their questions, or if they want to clarify something, they send it through our chat room. And those who do not have very good or modern cell phones, they use only those They only text me, no, and then ask questions or if they want to clarify something. And I also reply them, and of course with love, no, and so that they will be at ease. Next is a non-mandatory self-monitoring tool may be accomplished independently or with assistance of their parent, guardian if necessary. Now, we have problems on this item uh, as on what the learners should do, because not all parents are that, uh, shall we say, are not that good, or there are those who have not even finished their elementary grades and they cannot assist their children. So when they ask for help, I I am telling them that they can ask me, or they can ask their aunties or uncles and even their classmates who can help them. And next, it is not required to accomplish the self-monitoring tool, but its usage is highly recommended to keep track of learners' academic progress. What will parents and guardians do? DepEd aims to develop independent learners who can study and work on the assessment on their own. However, in this school year's implementation of distance learning modalities, parents and guardians will play a crucial role in guiding their children in adapting to the changes of distance learning processes. There are even parents who, every time they come to return their modules, or every time they come to get also their modules, they would even ask me, Mom, um, I couldn't help my child throughout the throughout the or I cannot help them with their modules because, Mom, I am very ill. I am not good. I am not that good as oh, what other parents can do. So I just tell them to seek also the help of other people who have the knowledge of the items asked by their children. And I just tell them to not to pressure their children and even themselves. Parents or guardians are requested to assist the assessment process by one, communicating with the teacher to give updates on their child's situation, progress, and challenges encountered. And my parents are doing this. Then, guide their children in accomplishing the assessment tasks and or monitoring tools designed by their teachers. And what will teachers do during the planning of assessment? Teachers need to be creative and flexible in assessing student learning, while still adhering to the principles of quality assessment practice. With safety, health, and well-being foremost in mind, assessment decisions must be made in the best interest of all learners, ensuring that all assessment activities are A, aligned with the most essential learning competencies, B, are reliable, valid, and transparent, C, are fair, inclusive, and equitable, D, are practical and manageable for both learners and teachers, E, give learners a range of ways to demonstrate their learning, and last, provide timely and accurate information as basis for feedback. In distance learning modalities, teachers shall design assessments bearing the assumption that the learners will asynchronously take them and have open access to various sources. What to consider when deciding on assessment methods? We have to consider the following, fellow teachers. First, what is the purpose of the assessment? Why do we assess? Then, what will be assessed? Then which method would best allow learners to demonstrate what they have learned considering their learning modality? And last, which method would make it easy to gather evidence of learners' progress over time? So, when deciding on assessment methods, we have to consider the following. 1. Will the assessment be completed individually or in groups? 2. Will the assessment be taken at the same time or submitted within a specific period? 3. How will class size affect the way the assessment will be conducted? And 4. How can technology help them? Next, what are some ways of assessment to evaluate learning? To evaluate student learning, at particular points in each quarter, summative assessments shall continue in the form of written works and performance tasks. A. Written works shall be administered to assess essential knowledge and understanding through quizzes and long tests or unit tests. Items should be distributed across the cognitive process dimensions, and which is under the 2015 page 4, using a combination of selected response and constructed response formats so that all are adequately covered. What are some of assessments to evaluate learning? Or what are some ways of assessment to evaluate learning? Performance tasks refer to assessment tasks that allow learners to show what they know and are able to do in diverse ways. They may create or innovate products or do performance-based tasks, including skill demonstrations, group presentations, oral work, multimedia presentations, and research projects. It is important to note that written outputs may also be considered as performance tasks under DepEd 2015, pages 7 to 8. Annex B provides a list of sample summative assessments that fall under performance tasks for the purpose of this policy. Considerations in evaluation process. Performance tasks must be designed to provide opportunities for learners to apply what they are learning to real-life situation. In addition, teachers should take into consideration the following. 1. Its task must be accompanied with clear directions and appropriate scoring tools like checklists, rubrics, grading scales, and so forth to help learners demonstrate their learning. 2. Teachers are advised to collaboratively design and implement performance tasks that integrate two or more competencies within or across subject areas. Complex tasks may be broken down into shorter tasks to be completed over longer periods of time. 3. Teachers are advised to collaboratively design and implement performance tasks that integrate two or more competencies within or across subject areas. Complex tasks may be broken down into shorter tasks to be completed over a longer period of time. 4. Teachers must exercise their professional judgment in carrying out summative assessments, providing enough opportunities for learners to practice and to redo their work whenever necessary so that they can reach their learning targets with the least amount of pressure. And 5, teachers should set realistic expectations and use their professional judgment to find a good balance between what is effective and what is feasible to accomplish remotely. communicating assessment tasks. In commuting the assessment tasks, teachers must ensure that the following details are explained. A. Objectives of the assessment tasks. B. Roles of learners and parents or guardians. C. Procedure and expected timeline. And D. Standards and rubrics. The teacher must consult the learner and, when necessary, parents or guardians to allow room for adjustments, flexibilities needed, if any. Record of progress. The collection and recording of evidences of learning is integral for monitoring student learning and development. Listed below are sample strategies for this purpose. A. Self-monitoring tool. Let's consider the needs of learners per key stage. Early grades need assistance from parents, while older learners are expected to accomplish self-reflection tools on their own. B. Check-ins of teacher with learner during assessment period. And C. Evidence of learning in the student learning portfolio. Feedback and remediation. To benefit student learning, both formative and summative assessment must be accompanied with timely, constructive, and meaningful feedback based on the learner's record of progress. In giving feedback, teachers need to maximize available communication options, like writing feedbacks on the output, texting feedback via SMS, and using online channels, among others. Next, teachers should ensure the learners receive remediation when they earn raw scores which are consistently below expectation in summative and assessment by the 5th week of any quarter. This will prevent a student from failing in any learning area at the end of the school year. Grading and promotion. The challenges brought to light by the coronavirus pandemic, specifically the implementation of different distance learning delivery modalities, have sparked a larger conversation about the role grades play in student learning, prompting education sectors to rethink traditional grading schemes. The grading system implemented in this interim policy provides reasonable leniency to learners who are put to a larger disadvantage by the pandemic, but at the same does not compromise the integrity and principles of assessment and grading. Next, written works and performance tests shall be administered to assess the contentment and performance standards that describe the knowledge, abilities, and skills that learners are expected to demonstrate. These tests could be designed to include the following. A. Student learning portfolio that documents all the evidence of learning within the grading period, including self-reflection, self-evaluation of performance tasks guided by rubrics, and self-selected best outputs in learning modules. So, portfolio is very important for the children to accomplish. B. Minimum of 4 written works and 4 performance tasks within the quarter, preferably 1 in 2 weeks, integrating 2 or more competencies. And last, all competencies should be covered by the performance tasks. A performance task can be used to assess science, math, and English altogether for certain topics. Quarterly examinations were given a weight of 20% constantly in Department Order Number 8 Series of 2015. Since it will no longer, remember this, no longer be a part of the grading system for this school year, its previously determined weight was distributed equally into written works and performance tasks, allotting an additional 10% to each component. This maintains an emphasis on performance tasks for some learning areas. Quarterly examinations were given a weight of 20% constantly in Department Order Number 8 Series of 2015. Since it will no longer be a part of grading system for this school year, its previously determined weight was distributed into written works and performance tasks, allotting an additional 10% to each component. This maintains an emphasis on performance tasks for some learning areas. Now, for the sample grading system, may I refer each one of you to the Department Order Number 31 Series of 2020 with entitled Assessment and Evaluation. So, that's all, my dear fellow teachers. And for your output, may I ask you to do this, to answer this, or to discuss this. Why do we need to assess, evaluate, and adjust our learning continuity plan? Again, why do we need to assess, evaluate, and adjust our learning continuity plan? That's all, my dear fellow teachers. Thank you very much. And again, good day to each and everyone. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you very much.
Sige, okay lang.
May mga gina-repeat ako.
Okay lang.